Tilikum began violently shaking Dawn's body. At times, he grabbed and shook her by the arm. Sometimes, he shook her by the leg. One witness described how he even thrashed and shook her around by the head. As Dawn tried escaping, he battered her with his snout. At one point, just when Dawn thought she had a chance and scrambled with all her strength towards the surface, Tilikum swam straight into her like a battering ram, hitting her squarely in the chest. Even as Dawn went limp from the impact, Tilikum went around the pool and returned, swimming at full speed towards her with his mouth open. It was as if the whale was battering a victim, his prey. People were witnessing the live mutilation of Dawn as Tilikum snapped off her arm and began chewing on it. This was even scarier than any scene from Jaws because this was being played out in real life. It was not color in the water but real blood. Dawn's blood that oozed from the mouth of Tilikum as he ate her arm. As if that wasn't enough, the whale chewed at her head and tore her scalp right off. People began screaming, and yet no one could do anything. The cruel and merciless battering broke Dawn's jaw, and one ear was seen dangling from her face. Her knees were broken. She could no longer move as her arms were fractured as well. Tilikum was a monster gone crazy. There were other smaller whales in the pool, but none participated in the bloody massacre. Meanwhile, the staff quickly swung into action, segregated the other whales into a neighboring pool, and attempted to save Dawn. Dawn was already dead. It was impossible to survive the battering she was receiving from Tilikum. Even as her body remained limp and lifeless, the whale was not done thrashing her around. Later, the coroner found that even Dawn's spinal cord had snapped and was severed in the attack. The entire staff at SeaWorld began slapping the water in hopes of intimidating Tilikum, who continued to thrash Dawn in his jaws. Paramedic Thomas Tobin rushed to the scene, but it was pointless. After 30 minutes, Tilikum was isolated in a special medical pool with a hydraulic base. Only then did trainers dive into the water to retrieve Dawn's body. One of the trainers found she had no scalp and dove back into the water only to find it laying at the bottom of the pool. As Dawn was being removed from the water, Tilikum looked agitated and tried getting back at her. It seemed the beast just wanted to rip her to shreds. Dawn was placed next to another pool, covered in a black sheet. Witnesses report seeing Tilikum repeatedly approaching the surface, trying to lift himself above the pool wall. Experts still can't pinpoint what happened to Tilikum and what triggered such rage in the orca. Some feel he had mistaken Dawn's ponytail for a toy, but was that really the case? The incident involving Dawn Burchot prompted a documentary called Blackfish, Death at SeaWorld, where marine scientists attempted to analyze and explain the event. They felt that Tilikum was angered for not being rewarded after the show. The most logical and likely explanation was that Tilikum had snapped after 26 years of living in captivity, suffering beatings and being traumatized by the confines of his captive environment. Do you agree that marine animals as large as Tilikum should never live in captivity and be trained for human entertainment? Was Dawn Burchot's merciless killing a disaster waiting to happen? We may never know, but remember, Dawn was the third victim of Tilikum. Check out the next video on screen to see some of the others.